Okay, hi everyone. We did our project on coral reef degradation, but the human impact. So, coral reefs are the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. They provide habitats, food, and shelter for many marine organisms. Coral reefs also protect coastlines from damaging effects of waves and coastal storms. They substantially protect land from natural hazards by reducing the wave energy by 97%. So, when humans release greenhouse gases, it prompts global warming. So it's raising the air and ocean surface temperatures. 93% of climate change heat is absorbed by the ocean. The increased water temperature and ocean acidity impacts coral reef communities by causing coral bleaching and altering the ocean's chemistry. So when the water temperature is around 77 degrees, corals will expel the algae living in their tissues, which will cause the coral to turn completely white. So this is called coral bleaching. When a coral bleaches, it is not dead. Corals can survive a bleaching event, but they are under more stress and are subject to mortality. As the climate changes, coral bleaching is predicted to become more frequent and more severe. So as carbon dioxide in the ocean increases, ocean pH decreases and becomes more acidic. So this process is called ocean acidification. So with ocean acidification, corals can absorb the calcium carbonate they need to maintain their skeletons. Therefore, the skeletons that support the corals dissolve. So the ocean's pH has decreased from 8.179 to a current pH of 8.09, which means that the ocean is about 30% more acidic now than it was in 1751. So if nothing is done to reduce carbon dioxide emissions into the atmosphere, ocean acidification will continue to increase more and more, and corals will be damaged and destroyed. All right, so some causes of coral bleaching are firstly, pesticides and fertilizers. So they're also known to take a big part in coral reef destruction. So when they're used in agriculture development projects, they're carried in the runoff to the ocean. So pesticides and fertilizers destroy or damage zooplankton and reef communities by accumulating in animal tissue. All right, so industrial practices such as mining, dredging, and refining all release heavy metals into coastal waters. So exposure to chemicals, mainly hydrocarbons, released by spillage from oil tankers, harbors, and pipelines, have been mainly known to affect reproduction, growth rate, and feeding, defense responses, and cell structure and corals. Okay, so some effects of coral bleaching. So firstly, coral degradation affects fish and other species that rely on live coral for food and shelter. So as a result of coral bleaching, reef fish become less abundant. So therefore, coral bleaching decreases the biodiversity of the coral and other species that rely on the coral to survive. Alright, so another effect of coral bleaching is decreased biodiversity of reef fish and other organisms. So this disturbs the food chain. So when coral reefs are healthy, they protect the coastlines. So reef degradation reduces the ability of the reefs to respond to change and um, the storm surge events, which is a value ecosystem service. Therefore, coral bleaching may reduce the overall resilience of coastal communities. Also, in addition to ecological impacts such as lower biodiversity, this and coastline protection, the collapse of reef systems directly impacts tourism because if you kill the coral and all the fish, snorkeling is a big um, place for money in tourism. So you lose that, countries lose a lot of money. All right, so coral reef destruction also has a negative impact on pharmaceutical industries because reefs are a valuable resource for pharmaceutical compounds. So a quick timeline. So in 1998, a huge underwater heat wave killed 16% of the corals on reefs around the world. So this was triggered by El Nino that year, and it was declared the first major global chlorine bleaching event. And the second global coral bleaching event that struck was triggered by El Nino again in 2010. So the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration announced the third global bleaching event in October of 2015, and it was the longest event recorded. So yeah. So what can you do to help? So one of the most important ways to prevent coral reef degradation is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So for instance, you can use energy efficient light bulbs. All right, so another way you can help is by reducing your fuel output and even switch to cleaner fuel. Or you can also, walk to school or bike to school or work or wherever. Another way you can help is by practicing safe boating, where the anchor doesn't drag on nearby corals and seagrass. Otherwise, you can destroy or kill the coral. Okay, so another way you can also volunteer to help clean up coastlines by picking up garbage, and that would otherwise end up in the ocean as a threat to coral reefs and other aquatic organisms. All right, thank you guys so much for watching and spread the word.